1340 KVGC. Everything old is new again. Saturdays at 6, Sunday at 6, right here on KVGC. And one of the hosts, Douglas Viviani, our weekly visit today. Douglas and Dave host the show that takes a look at every week at pop culture and, kind of where it came from and where it's heading, why it's so popular and so forth. Everything old is new again. And Douglas, good morning.
Good morning. I may be a little bit hoarse or a little under the weather only because I've been on a search this week, the last 3 days, very little sleep. My little girl is 6 years old, and we may all relate to this in some way, and it will make sense when I finish this short story, but she had a little bunny. We're very creative with our names. It's called Bunny. A little bunny doll that she's had for 6 years. Long story short, she lost it 3-4 nights ago, and can't sleep without it, and is all upset. And so we've been looking for the last couple of days for this thing. We can't find it. I'm up late at night trying to find this very unique doll on eBay to try to buy another one and see if we found it and all of that. And we're just like losing sleep over it, and it's just terrible. She's got to sleep with us, everything else. And this morning I found it. It was in the pillowcase of her pillow. I don't know where she got that from. I don't know how it got there, what's happening, but it was the believe it or not, this little doll made this house and made me lose sleep like crazy. So I don't know if you ever had that experience growing up with having your children grow up and they get attached to something. It just is impossible to move on beyond a particular issue that is close to their heart.
My first suspect would have been Leo.
I won't be surprised if that's what he did. That he one day took it and just put it into the pillowcase, and that was it. How else did it get there? That evil little 3-year-old. These guys are so mischievous. I got to put a GPS device on this doll from now on.
Actually, I can relate to you when my oldest son JD was, 3 or 4. We had these little play school toys, and one of them was an airliner, like an airplane, and it was maybe about 1.5 feet long. Anyway, so one morning I get up, I can't find my keys. And I've always been the first guy to open the radio station, no matter where I've worked. Well, I couldn't find my keys. Had to call the boss. He had to come let me in. That was a nice experience. Couldn't find him. So basically just had a new set of keys made, and about 3 days later, we found them in this airliner. He had been playing with them, and he was trying to start the engine of the airplane with my keys.
At least he didn't put them into the garbage. I found Leo at one point. He had taken my wallet, and he had taken my credit cards out, and some of them were in the garbage, some of them were in the couch. It was a mess. You really... You got to baby-proof your house also for these events,
There we go.
It's just like everything old is new again. The way I look at that, I don't think I've seen it on any sitcom or anything, but the closest I get is this Goldbergs. I don't know if we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I think it's coming on strong in season 2. It's a show with a heart, and there's some laughs, and it's some good family entertainment, and it talks about family stuff. There's not many shows like that anymore. They used to be the cornerstone of TV, but I don't see many like that anymore, but I love that one.
I like that. My kids say that I'm Murray, and I don't know. I don't know why, but if you watch this week's show, they thought he was depressed.
Right.
He said, "No, that's just me. I'm happy. I'm happy when I do these things." So
that's what I lead up to. They were like, "Dad, you're always you're on edge. You're always tired. You're always just sitting around watching TV when you get home." And they thought it was depressed. And it's like, no, that's what being a dad is.
I know, that's exactly. I think that was his line. That's what being a dad is. You know what show I'm starting to warm to, and I don't know if you've watched it or not. It's on ABC's Wednesday night lineup. It's called Blackish. When I first started watching it, I didn't. It was, but I'm starting to warm to that. I really.
I like it in that they're good-natured in that they're taking this whole racial divide and so forth, and just kind of making a nice environment around. You know what? We're all the same, and it's at some point we're going a little bit overboard on some of this stuff, and they're really having a very, what would you say, very creatively written. I don't think there's been a show like that. No. In a comedy vein, trying to just give us a nice environment about families, and we all should be getting together, and there's all these different characteristics that each race and each culture have its place.
I thought I would never say this, but one of my favorite shows is Modern Family. But Modern Family this season starting to get a little long in the tooth.
Yes, sometimes they run out of ideas a little bit.
Yeah.
And you kind of they're great actors, and they're making a lot of money, so it'll go on for a little while. But as long as the ratings are there. But did you know, by the way, that the second girl in that show, the second daughter, second oldest, and the chubby guy, I forget his name of the show,
Manny.
Yeah, they're both voices lend their voices to Sophia the First. She's the voice of Sophia the First, and that
really?
I don't know what that is, but that's a very popular Disney children's kids show. And we heard her voice, and she was singing and so forth. So she's got some career going there, believe it or not.
God, you're making me feel old now, Douglas, because there was a time I could have told you every Nickelodeon show, every Disney show, all this. Now it's like, Hannah Montana still on the air?
Exactly. Sooner or later, we're going to do a show about, stars lending their voices to these, I'm going to say obscure, although in the kids' world, that show's not obscure, but in the general culture, these obscure cartoons.
Hey,
I heard
Go ahead.
a new Tom and Jerry recently, and the actor Jason Alexander that played played Costanza on Seinfeld lent his voice to that. It's funny how they show up where you least expect them.
Hey, speaking of showing up where you least expect it, I found this picture floating around on Facebook the other day of a screen test of Captain Picard with hair. Have you seen that?
I have. I don't know if you reposted it to somebody. I did see that.
Yeah.
And he has this smirk on his face. He has the hair almost like Captain Kirk did, because both of them needed a hairpiece for that. And it looked pretty much like Captain Kirk's hair, right?
I mean, Patrick Stewart with hair just doesn't work. Doesn't work. So.
It didn't work. I was kind of going around the channels, and you try to find something new here and there. I'm addicted to a very odd show. It's on the History Channel. It's called Forged in Fire. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's like that Chopped show. Have you seen Chopped, where they have three chefs, and they have three different rounds, and the first round's appetizer, and they take out, the chefs have no idea what they're going to take out of this basket, and there's 4 or 5 items they have to use and make their own, be creative and make their own appetizer and meal and dessert. Well, this is like this one. There's 3 fellas, and they're given, I don't know what you call them, but they make, the blacksmiths, I guess, they make out of scrap metal. They give them scrap metal out of a piece of a car or whatever it might be. A dump of metal is on the stage, and they pick out what they want. They've got to make, they give them specifications to make a certain kind of sword or knife or anvil or some kind of a device that has to be used, and then they test it and which one was used and built properly. It's just the process, because you go to the store and you look at knives and whatever these metal things are, and you don't realize the amount of work that goes into some of these handmade products. It's incredible.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just, it's got me taping it and looking for it whenever it comes on. It's what can I tell you? I'm bizarre.
Forged in Fire.
Exactly. Give it a shot.
What's up with this week's show?
This week we're going to go into we've got the 7th installment of Star Wars: The Force Awakens, breaking all kinds of box office records. It's the box office champion with like $2 billion. We've not touched upon it really at all. So we're going to examine this phenomenon, which literally kind of defines what everything all was new about. Because, it's great entertainment, but it's based, from today, but it's based upon works of the past. And I guarantee you, because tons of shows have talked about this topic, I guarantee when you listen to our show, you definitely will hear things that are brand new that you've never heard about Star Wars before. I think it's going to be one of our best shows. For example, I think you're going to look back and see how Flash Gordon and Dr. Smith from Lost in Space are responsible for Star Wars.
I think the Dr. Smith reference is all in your mind because you're a Lost in Space fanatic. No, I think Dr. Smith has nothing to do.
Listen to the show because you will hear by audio tapes, as we always do, by a long and detailed argument that I will make before the court. And we will see next week if I was able to convince you about Dr. Smith's influence on Star Wars.
It's funny you bring up that court reference because when you were talking about the missing bunny, Angelica's bunny, and then I mentioned Leo and so forth, do you set things up like a court in your house when you question people? Do you have like your wife sitting over as the judge? And then
it drives her literally insane. She's more like the jury because she's not allowed to say anything.
And then Leo sits in a chair and you go, now tell me, where were you?
And the conversation at the dinner table has to start. They call it laying foundation. I have to start at the basics, Before you can talk about a car accident like a deposition, you got to make sure that the person got into the car and what kind of car it was and that they owned the car. So with the bunny missing, it'd be, okay, Leo, yesterday, do you know that Angelica has a bunny? Everybody knows that Angelica has a bunny. Do you know that the bunny is missing? Everybody knows it. So I have to go through the foundation. So it's long and laborious, and I get a lot of eyes rolled. I can't help it. I've been trained to lay that foundation whenever I make a presentation.
There we go. Douglas Viviani, Everything Old is New Again. You can join Douglas and David Cohen Saturday nights at 6, Sundays at 6, right here on 1340 KVGC. Have a great weekend, and woo, we found Bunny.
Excellent. Thanks. Talk to you next week.